Chilly girls and little Christmas boys, cease the upwelling of cold nutrient-dense waters from the depths. Give the Asian continent the cold shoulder. And I'll be damned what the fry want. Phytoplanktons are off the menu.
Did it just get cold in here? It's time to talk Tull to me.
Rub the Tull together and make a spark.
Oh, get naked with the Tull. It's for body warmth.
Quick, I'm Martin Ball into the sleeping bag for survival. Welcome back to the podcast. I am Omen Thomas Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together we are the Feckless Moans.
And this, my turtlenecks, is Talk Tull to Me.
A semi-bidecadal systemic shift in the flow patterns of prog rock, in which Noodlefish Nick and Old Wife Omen will swim through and sup upon each and every trocadal track that rip current rock band Jethro Tull have ever drip-dropped into the musical ocean. We will probe Jonathan Noise's necritic zone, circumnavigate the Doane Perry Peninsula, and even catch crabs in the benthos of Martin Bar. And if we can seize the faltering trade winds, confound the meteorologists, and keep ourselves in circulation, we may just catch sight of the most befuddling meteorological phenomenon of all, the spectroradiometer of Scotland, the dude who plays with magnitude, the quillback who fills his sack, a man whose patterns have been heavily researched but never understood, Ian Albufera Anderson.
What's quillback?
A quillback is a kind of a fish.
Oh, okay. Like a pufferfish.
Let's say it's like a pufferfish.
It's like an aquatic hedgehog.
Imagine, if you will, a porcupine of the sea.
Yes, love it. Love everything about that.
A sea tree pig.
A seaweed pig.
A seaweed pig. Nick, it's wonderful to see your shining face again.
Here it is.
It's wonderful to hear your shining voice.
I painted my face with glitter and I drank the rest of it, and it's here.
That is a health tonic.
Yes.
And what is it that we shall glitter on about Tull today?
We're on about El Niño today. El Niño, ladies and gentlemen. This is track number 8 off of jtull.com. El Niño. We're about halfway through the album at this point.
Why don't we change up our weather patterns and have a listen?
Bust out those galoshes.
Nick McGill.
Oh, man, Thomas Sade.
Who was that little boy?
It was a little Spanish boy. We do not know his name. We only refer to him as El Niño.
El Niño.
El Niño.
Nick, before we dive into the music, what is actually El Niño? I'm glad you asked.
Yes, tell me, Omen. Tell me, what is it?
El Niño is a naturally occurring climactic pattern that is caused mostly in the tropical Pacific Ocean. It is a disruption of the currents in the tropical ocean, and some of the effects of it are that the trade winds, which typically blow east to west toward the Asian continent, which are typically pretty reliable, they either falter or they disappear completely. And some of the processes by which, because the trade winds falter, the typically cold and nutrient-dense water that gets brought up from the lower parts of the ocean isn't coming up as much, and so it affects fishing patterns.
Right, so currents affect both the water and the air, because the flow of the current, the temperature affects the air above it, and then the air temperature above that affects everything else. So yeah,
exactly.
The oceans really do play a massive role in our weather and our world.
Oceans are 7/10 of the terrestrial globe.
Do you think it's coincidence that humans are 70% water, Omen?
I don't know.
Oh, God.
One of the things about El Nino is that it affects weather patterns all over the world, not just in the area in which it occurs. It can decrease monsoon rainfall in India. It can spur more hurricanes in the Central Pacific, and it can affect fishing. In fact, the reason it is called El Nino is that it was first observed by Peruvian fishermen in the 1600s.
Wow.
Noticing that there were changes around December. And so they actually originally named it El Nino de la Navidad.
Oh, it's Jesus weather.
It's Jesus weather.
The baby of the nativity.
It's Jesus
Right?
weather.
Jesus. It's cold now.
Yeah. Where'd the fish go? Ask Jesus.
Ask a baby Jesus.
I don't know why the Peruvians have Italian accents, but listen.
It's strange. It's the 1600s. Who knows?
Who knows indeed?
Prove us wrong.
Nick, this might be the only Tull song that has a tilde in it.
Yes, I believe it is. I believe it is.
And how does this smack to you musically?
It smacks me all right. Boy, howdy does this smack you right in the face with a fish.
Yeah.
A big old sturgeon right across the kisser. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a powerhouse.
It is a powerhouse.
Yeah.
It's funny listening to it and looking at it, with an intentional eye. I thought it was much longer than it in fact is. It's only 4 minutes, 4 something.
It's 4.5 minutes. That's nothing to shake a stick at, but it's fairly average for Tull.
I felt like it was going to be longer than it is.
Your memory of it is that it's longer. If 3 weeks ago, if I said how long is El Nino, you would have put it up there with like a 6 or 7 minute.
I'd say six minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's just that the song feels so massive because of some of the instrumentation and the way that it's played.
That's interesting because to me, I feel like it zips by pretty quickly.
Well, in that case, I'm going to have some hop-flavored sparkling water.
Do it. Drown your sorrows in hop water.
It's got blood orange.
Ooh. It's got blood and orange in it. Vampire favorite. Floridian vampire selection.
Someone bled on my orange.
Gross.
We have a very interesting introduction to this song.
Yeah, we do.
Interesting in that it is a stark contrast from the rest of the song. It feels
Right.
It's like you couldn't, if you listen to just the intro and then you're like, all right, what song comes after this?
What's coming up? What's coming up?
Like, I don't know, some kind of fruity little jaunty number.
Is it like Cheap Day Return?
Right.
Wondering Again, maybe?
So we have Ian on the flute doing these, what feels like, I don't want to describe it as tentative, but there's a delicate quality to what he's playing.
Yeah. There's a lightness.
There's a lightness.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon after that, the acoustic guitar joins in. Which is doing an interesting little pattern where it's doing an accelerando of chords. So it's playing a chord, but it's going dum 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 dum.
Oh, yeah. There's a mysterious sound in this beginning here.
There is. And all the way throughout as well.
Well, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I believe that what gives it the mystery feel is a little different between the two parts.
True. What do you feel gives the mystery in the beginning?
I think it's the lightness of the flute paired with that accelerando. I think that accelerando really makes you like, what's going on here?
You know what this reminds me of? You know when you're watching like a very serious film and they have a scene in a park where there's a child's birthday party and you see kids running around. They're like, yay, it's the best day ever. And you're like, oh no.
Something's going down.
Something terrible is about to happen to those kids.
Yeah.
That's what this intro feels like.
Ray and I are very fond of turning to one another about halfway through a movie and saying, I don't know where this is going and I love it. Usually about 75% of the time, it's a disappointing trajectory.
Sure.
But still, to get that far and not know what's happening it's a good sign.
That is.
Yeah. And this song is, you get 20 seconds of that. Ooh, I don't know where this is going. What's going to happen? And then it busts in the door.
And then it's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. Yeah, you can't turn back.
There's a Giddingsing. There's a Giddings. We have to talk about the Giddings factor.
Okay. We're still talking about this first, 20 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that weird, percussion-y. It's not a bell.
Right?
It's not a piano either.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it could be a xylophone, if he's holding the metal so it's not too resonant.
Let's listen again really quick. So actually, you know what? I think that's the guitar. I think what actually somebody is doing, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe there's no Giddings on the intro. But I feel like someone is taking the chords of the guitar and extending them unnaturally.
I don't know. I think it's percussion. I think it might be done on something.
It's hard to tell what it is,
Yeah.
and that is what gives it a level of disconcertedity.
Yeah. Now is the winter of our disconcertedity.
That was back when Shakespeare was working with 16 syllables.
It was workshopping it. He eventually cut it down.
Yeah. His editors were like, 10, just stick to 10. We keep telling you.
We'll pay you for 10. We're not paying you for 16.
That's right.
That 20 seconds is our startup. And then we get into, it's not full force like we hear when it goes into the Martin, like ba, 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 ba.
Right.
But it does kind of glide into Ian's mysterious singing, a more kind of exotic sound that we're used to hearing from something like Roots to Branches.
Yeah, there's not a distinct drop into the song as we sometimes hear. It's more of a sudden and powerful swell.
Yeah, there's what I think is possibly a keyboard sting reversed. It sounds like wah.
As one wet merchant.
I've noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that. I think that there may be also a couple times when that reversal effect is being used on Ian's voice.
Ooh, okay.
It reminds me all the way back in, I think, Broadsword when we first heard that, where you would put reverb on something or you put an echo on something.
Yeah.
Then you play the tape backwards. Of course, now they would be doing it totally digitally.
That was done Ringill.
Yeah, it was. Good memory.
What was that? That was Stormwatch.
Oh, Stormwatch. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Some of that exotic quality that you're mentioning comes from not so much Ian's singing, and I didn't notice this until toward the end of the song, but the acoustic guitar, which I think must be being played by Martin, is being played in a Spanish style.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Just by virtue of the way that he is fingering the chords, maybe the kind of guitar that was chosen, some of his little decorations or what are those called? Those little note enhancements.
Flourish?
Some of his flourishes, thank you, are in the Spanish style.
Okay. The acoustic, I think it's back there for most of it, but it's very hard to pull out.
It's mostly in unison with Ian singing, and it's only a few little moments of departure where you can even clock it.
Yeah, where it really became evident to me was at right around 3:30.
That's where I noticed it too.
I was like, oh my goodness, that sounds really nice.
Leaves toys for little sister on another day.
But then it goes away, it's super quick. It's just a quick noodle up and out, and then it's back down again.
The bass for a lot of the verses, is pretty much a drone.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I did not clock the bass one bit.
It's literally just providing a drone element.
Yeah.
And then once we get into the little rock breakout moments, it will underscore and kind of support Martin. I think we should talk about Martin Barr on this song.
Before we get into Martin real quick, while it's the Ian show, Martin's not really in the background supporting Ian. He'll just come up and sting a little bit. He'll just have a little phrase here and there.
On the electric guitar.
Yes. Yeah.
Towards the west.
But the synth,
Yes.
celestial in the background, I don't think it's quite set on a voice setting, but it almost sounds choral. It's really odd and diaphanous, and I really, really like that effect in here.
Reaching fish to fry, fail to materialize.
Giddings is doing a lot more than I think is easily detectable on this song.
I think so too, yeah.
You're totally right about that choral setting. He's also creating some effects in various places. There's a little bit of a digitality, a digital sound to his playing on this song, which fits so well with the overall theme.
Right.
Fits weirdly well with this song somehow. There's some references to television and kind of the media in this song.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe there's that sense of, maybe that's a little bit where it's coming from, or that's what I'm associating with. There are even some moments, I wrote down at 2:55, maybe we can pull that out.
Twilight Zone-y almost.
And even within that, it's not just those chords, there's some little pips and cheeps.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like when you have a radar scanning and you have that kind of like...
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, just in certain spaces.
I'm detecting El Niño.
El Niño, it's coming in.
It's on the radar. Oh, actually, that's the El Niño Taqueria who's making delivery to us.
It's their food truck. It's
Thank God.
delicious.
We're starving.
I'm famished. But yes, getting into Martin, mercy, mercy me. Like, This is one of the hardest sounds we've heard from Martin in living memory, dare I say. Like, it's up there.
It doesn't get much harder than this when it comes to the guitar.
Yeah.
He is bringing some real passion to it. Mm. I love the riff that he's created, that
yeah. Oh my gosh. So heavy.
And even then, it's not just the chords. He plays some runs. There's one, I forget exactly where it is, but he goes...
Yeah, that's what I have written down for 125. It goes ba 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 ba, and then it pulls into Ian going ba 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 with the flute again, like right into it. It drops back down.
There are a number of places where the flute and the guitar are setting each other up, kind of volleying back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think that some of the sounds that Martin was obviously playing with during this period found a wonderful venue in this song.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And when we do hear him more prominently in this album in general, he's not front and center every time.
No, he isn't.
There have been, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 songs on this album that we've listened to thus far that have been like, it's not really a Martin song, is it?
Quite Martin sparse, yeah.
Yeah. But when he does step forward in here, it makes you remember why you love Martin Barre.
Absolutely. And, I'm very curious with the Jethro Tull writing process and with what we've heard from Ian over and over again.
Yeah.
About his process for creating songs. I would be very curious to know what directives he gave the band in preparation for recording this song.
Yeah, my God, it's so hard to know,
It's impossible.
How much power was granted at which level of the band you're in, which iteration. We don't know how long Ian has been staunchly like, this is my band, this is how you play this song. We don't know how much creativity there is, but it certainly feels like Martin has really embraced this song.
Yeah.
The feeling and the presentation of this song.
I think so. And I think judging from how the song has turned out and the lyrics, I can imagine Ian going in and saying, right, boys, this is going to be a dark one. Let out the sails and let's catch the dark winds.
Let's slip the jams of war.
Slip the jammy eels of war.
There's kind of this abandon to the heaviness here, and I love it. I love this sound. It's so good and it's so different.
This song has always filled me with a sense of real terror.
Yes. Yeah.
It really gives me the chills hearing this song.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a rage there that you would never expect from sweet babyface, soft-spoken Martin, but he gets it out somehow.
He's channeling it from somewhere, and he really embodies, the whole song embodies the feeling of being up against something that is not just bigger than you, but so much bigger than you that you may as well not exist.
Right. You are the ant scurrying around the kaiju.
There is what is a kaiju?
Like Godzilla or King Kong, just big giant monsters. Did you ever see Pacific Rim? Where it's like the people get in the big giant mech suits and they fight the big giant monsters that come out of the seafloor.
I haven't seen that, but I have for many years supported the Pacific Rim Jobs Act.
I can't have a serious conversation with you anymore.
No. Have you ever been able to?
Once.
And that was it. That was
I wrote it in my diary.
Yep.
Today, Omen shared feelings.
Those are the last feelings I ever had.
That's it.
There's an indifference to the power behind this song.
Right. The delivery of that power.
Yes.
We as the listeners are the recipient of that power.
Yes.
But Martin behind that guitar is the delivery, and it's matter of fact.
Yes.
This is how it is. El Nino is here.
The power does not care about our opinion about it. It just exists.
Right. It's nature. It's the earth. 100%, yeah.
I want to point out something a little odd. I don't know why this stuck out to me, but it just seems so strange. In the second verse, Ian puts a line break really where you wouldn't expect it. The line, as written, reads, "Bathing in uncertainty, another age seems to wing." But he sings it, "Bathing in uncertainty, another age." And then several many bars of music.
Yeah.
And then continues with "seems to wing." Next line from TV screens.
Bathing in uncertainty, another age. Seems to wing from TV screens.
Not that it matters. None of that. It's all arbitrary, but it's funny to me that the way that it's written on the page and the way that it's sung are so contrasted with that.
Yeah, that's curious. I can't think of a justification lyrically, narratively for that to work. If he had stopped at "seems to wing," that's kind of the end of an idea, so that's okay. And then a follow-up with "from TV screens." But stopping at "another age," that's interesting. Is it strictly because of scansion? Is it something more? Is he trying to impart something more in there?
Hard to know. Just in a little anomaly for you.
Yeah. Whether it was intentional or not, I think it fits kind of well with the idea of El Nino being anomalous and unpredictable.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Drums very heavy.
Yes, Don is bringing it home.
He's bringing it all the way home. All the way to upstate New York. When he plays the drums in Europe, he plays loud enough for people at home to hear them.
Right. Yeah. Westchester County.
He's in Westchester County.
Yeah, he's in, where is he from?
Yeah, he's a Westchester boy.
Yeah, it's the same, not Armonk, but Mount Kisco. Mount Kisco. Yep.
Some people play for the back of the house.
Yep.
He plays for the back of the house in Mount Kisco.
He plays for the house he grew up in.
The actual back of his house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go to Mount Kisco, you stand just in the right corner of his house, you can still hear him drumming.
You can hear it. The ghost of Don Perry, he's still alive.
His mom's like, "Would you like some great news, Nick?" "Don Perry's still here."
Here we are, Omen.
Oh, hello.
Nothing in the middle, no correspondences, no tidbits. So we're going to dive right into the chilly waters of El Nino.
We've already talked about what El Nino is. We should also mention that El Nino is part of a cycle called El Nino Southern Oscillation Cycle, often referred to as ENSO.
Huh.
And ENSO also includes the La Nina phase, which is the opposite of El Nino. So all the patterns that happen in El Nino get reversed. The trade winds actually strengthen during La Nina. There's more of that cold water brought up. And so it's literally just the opposite. In fact, in some places they call, because it is the opposite, instead of calling it La Niña, they call it El Viejo, which is the old man.
The old man, yeah. So El Nino is the little boy.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is another underlining of the falseness of the gender binary. The opposite of little boy could either be little girl or old man.
That's right. That's right.
Both of those things make sense.
We respect whatever that weather wants to be called.
And you know what? That old man was that little girl.
That's the end of Citizen Kane, isn't it?
It's always I haven't seen Citizen Kane. That's a classic Gordy Boudreau ending.
I was that little girl.
And I was that little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very stupid.
There's a Futurama where Fry comes out, I think it's Fry, comes out of the muck of the sewer with a squid on his head, like an octopus on his head. And they're like, oh, he's mutated. He's horrible. And then he takes the octopus off and he's like, no, it's fine. And then the octopus says, I used to be a little girl called Virginia. And then it just jumps back into the water.
Classic Futurama.
Classic Futurama.
I used to be a little blonde girl named Virginia.
I will admit, I will confess.
Tell me.
I admit that when I actually read the lyrics to this song just now, I was like, wow, never knew that that's what he was saying. I had a totally different, not even Amanda Green, just Amanda Gray.
Amanda what now?
Amanda Darkness, because, and it wasn't out of disinterest or even that it's hard to listen, that, you know, the lyrics are hard to hear. It's just that the music of this song is so overwhelming.
Yeah, it's very overpowering.
All I really need is so wet current El Nino.
Yeah, just Ian, remind us that you're there. Sing the chorus. We're good. We're fine.
We're good. As one, comma, wet merchants turn their eyes toward the west.
As one wet merchants turn their eyes towards the west.
I always thought it was as one wet merchant turns his eyes toward the west.
Yeah, could be, but this is more encompassing here.
Yes.
This is
as one.
As a collective, all of the sopping wet merchants
in the east turn their eyes toward the west. Yeah, because it's too wet where they are. It's abnormally wet where they are. And it's difficult for them to get to the west because the trade winds have faltered.
Gotcha.
Trade winds falter as if in dire consequence.
Trade winds falter as if in dire consequence.
As if in dire...
As if in
dire consequence. Can you be in dire consequence?
You can do something in dire consequence, I suppose, or something can be in dire consequence.
Does this mean that the faltering of the trade winds will cause consequences that are dire? I'm having trouble making logical sense of this line, even though I know perfectly what it means.
It's the as if that throws you. As if is not a definitive statement. It's not saying trade winds falter causing dire consequence. It's not, we don't know for sure. It's just acting as if it's in dire consequence. Which kind of doesn't make sense to me.
Well, maybe this does make sense. Because El Nino is a repeated pattern, we know it's going to happen, although not on a regular schedule.
Yeah.
If you're unfamiliar with it, you could feel like, oh my, this is the end. This is it. We're done. We're done for. The trade winds are gone. The world will never be the same again.
So it's as if it were in dire consequence. It's as if it's in dire consequence that the trade winds are faltering. However, it's not actually, because we know that they'll be back.
If you feel that the trade winds faltering are a dire consequence, that is because you are a small mortal being and you don't have the perspective of the life cycle of the planet.
Yeah, or you're just not an experienced fisherman, trader or sailor, whatever.
Or it's just that it's dire consequence for you because that means your whole next 9 months or year are going to be messed up.
Yeah.
But it's not of any consequence to the winds themselves. It's an interesting line.
Yeah.
It's also interesting the way that he scans it. Trade winds falter as if in
Yeah.
dire consequence.
Yeah. I think that's too specific to just glance over. I think that's a very specific word choosing there.
Freezing fish to fry fail to materialize.
Freezing fish to fry fail to materialize.
Wonderful alliteration there.
Love it. Love everything about it. And that is a dire consequence of the trade winds faltering.
Yes.
The fishermen are unable to fish to catch whatever it is that those winds and those oceanic currents normally are bringing up.
Yes. And the part of the effect of El Nino is that it affects these cold waters coming up from the bottom.
Yeah.
They bring with them cold water fishes, which are typically the really nutrient-dense ones that you want.
Okay.
And so instead, they're warm waters. So either Ian is saying the freezing fish, i.e. the cold water fish, fail to materialize, or he's saying that the fish that you freeze after you've caught them fail to materialize.
Which could be cold or warm water. Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, I took it as the latter, but yeah, that's a good dual meaning with that first idea of getting the fish from beneath, yeah.
And, if in the 1600s, the fishermen were able to say, oh, wow, the water's abnormally warm for this time of year.
Right.
It must be enough of a difference to be able to tell.
Yeah.
Christ child, blood-warm currents sends to touch the skies.
Christ child, blood's warm current sends to touch the skies.
So Christ child goes back to El Nino de Navidad? Is that what it is?
Correct, yep. And I love the probably very accurate inclusion of blood warm, because there's a tie-in with Jesus, obviously.
Yeah, right.
The Christ blood.
Mm-hmm.
This is the blood of my body.
Christ bled into the ocean so that we could be saved.
I'm going to turn all the oceans to wine.
Enjoy your drunken fish, people. Salty, salty wine.
Blood warm currents sends to touch the skies. I think that part of the effect of the warmer waters is that it creates more storms, and so that creates more wetness in some places.
Yes. Storms are generally a convergence of a warm and a cold front that causes that roiling. So if the warm front rather is coming from the ocean itself,
Yeah.
it could very well cause, especially if this is in December when El Nino hits, that warm air hits.
Right?
Yeah.
Then it's meeting the cold. Yes. The warm water meets the cold air. It causes. That's how we get lake effect snow in the Great Lakes.
Thanks, lake effect snow.
Thanks, Jesus.
Thanks, geography. Earth science. Mrs. Smith. 9th grade.
Wow. Here's where the song gets interesting for me. Because so far we've seen this is literally what El Nino is.
Yes, a poetic representation of the weather system that is El Nino.
If National Geographic was a poetry magazine, this would be in it.
Yes, right, exactly.
But now we get kind of to the effect on humanity. Around this time, there was an El Nino event happening. I think it was right toward 98.
I feel like, granted, I was pretty young at the time, but I feel like El Nino didn't become a thing until like the late 90s, just in terms of falling into the consciousness.
That's it. I think that there was a greater consciousness about El Nino at this time. And I think it was partly tied to a lot of the science around global warming, and not saying, hey, El Nino is being caused by global warming, but saying, hey, the regular shifts in patterns are going to be a lot worse with global warming.
Right. Yeah.
Bathing in uncertainty, another age seems to wing from TV screens in weather rage.
Bathing in uncertainty, another age. Seems to wing from TV screens in weather rage.
This is a dense line.
Yeah. Yeah, so bathing in uncertainty is we don't know how El Nino will affect us this season.
And also, I think, tinged with there is uncertainty around climate change itself.
True. Yeah, Ian's always been aware of that. He's always had his pulse. He's always had his finger on the pulse of the earth.
There's one thing about Ian. He's always had a pulse.
So far as we know, do not reach out to us lawyers. This is conjecture. We're not saying anything definite.
We think he has a pulse. That's not a judgment on his character.
Yeah, absolutely. If he doesn't have a pulse, as long as that pulse is consenting, it's fine.
He's very convincing as a warm-blooded creature.
Yes. Yeah. We did see a heat lamp in his dressing room when we
There was an electric blankie.
and a rock beneath the heat lamp where he was curled up.
Right.
He was eating lettuce when we got there.
There was an upside-down liter Coke bottle filled with crickets that would occasionally drop into his enclosure.
Is that how you drop crickets into an enclosure?
That's how I dropped crickets into an enclosure.
Oh, I've never heard that technique before.
Bathing, a water verb.
Yes.
There's a lot of uncertainty. Another age seems to wing from TV screens in weather rage. Oh, I see why he breaks the line so that age rhymes with rage.
Oh, okay, yeah. But he does break it significantly more. It's not like one line after the other. You said there's a chunk of time in between.
I think what I'm realizing is I have a complaint with the book's silent singing with the way that it has this line. I think it should be bathing in uncertainty another age. Comma. Seems to wing from TV's, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Just line break, but yeah.
Line break.
Yeah, that's valid. We'll talk to Ian.
So another age seems to wing from TV screens in weather rage. I do remember that there was this sense of panic and doom. Also, I mean, remember at this time, there was the Y2K fear.
Sure. Yeah.
It was the turn of the millennium. There was this sense that we were moving into another millennia, which we were.
That sense was correct. But also, there were doomsday cults. There were people saying that the computers would crash because the computer could not handle the process of changing over to 2000 in the date system.
Turned out to be fine.
Which is, everything was okay.
At the time, there was a lot of fear about there were going to be planes falling out of the skies.
Yeah.
The world was going to come to an end. And then alongside of this, these abnormal weather patterns almost felt like omens, if you will, of horrifying changes to come.
Yeah, right. And yet we ignored them.
We ignored them in any meaningful way. We made a lot of
terrible disaster movies in the early 2000s.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dante's Peak, Volcano.
Well, even the core, Apocalypse Day.
Independence Day? No, not Independence Day. Are you talking about the one with
the asteroid and the miners?
Yeah, where they actually talk about Jethro Tull.
Oh, yeah.
Luke Wilson's character talks about Jethro Tull. I think it's Luke Wilson.
What does he say?
It's like they're doing interviews of all the miners who are going up on the asteroid. It's like, what people don't understand is that Jethro Tull is actually the band, not the leader of the band.
Oh, that's
something
so
along those
stupid.
lines.
What is that movie called?
It was Owen Wilson. Armageddon.
I'll tell you one thing that really drives me nuts is people that think that Jethro Tull is just a person in the band.
Armageddon.
Yeah.
Armageddon close to the answer?
Armageddon close to the end of this episode?
Nope.
Savage retribution makes for a headline feast. Savage retribution makes for a headline feast.
I don't know if this is directly connected to the weather, but I do feel, again, this was 2000, leading up to 2000, we were getting close to the presidential election of George Bush that was decided by a couple of hanging chads in Florida.
Hanging chads, yeah.
There was a lot of angst politically. There was a lot of angst just generally in the world. And I think the burgeoning new internet was maybe what Ian is tapping into was some of the early effects of the fanning of the panic flames through the internet.
Sure, yeah.
That now we're very familiar with.
I think also the savage retribution could be the Earth's retribution against us for what we're doing to it.
I think that is a very accurate interpretation.
Makes for a headline feast is just what it is. Blood cell. What is it? Blood cells? What's that? Blood
cells.
There's a news term or a news phrase.
Lungs invest.
Lungs invest. Cell low, buy high.
Sell blood ho. Buy blood low, sell blood high.
That's it. That's where it is. Yeah. If it bleeds, it reads.
Wow.
That's it.
Took us a while to get there. It reminds me of I think it was George Carlin, in one of his later years, he had not a joke, but a bit about
an observation
about, people say that the world is going to be destroyed. Oh, the planet's going to be destroyed. The planet is going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's humanity that will be destroyed.
Besides, there's nothing wrong with the planet. The planet is fine. The people are f***ed.
So there is that sense of all of this coming together this time.
Yeah.
Planet warming, opinion forming, headless beast.
Planet warming, opinion forming, headless beast.
Headless beast is either the weather itself, or I think just going back to that another age seems to wing from TV screens in weather rage, and the headline feast, it's the news cycle, it's the media, it's the Weather Channel is now shock TV as opposed to telling you it's going to snow.
Yeah.
It's now we're showing you floods across the world because that is what makes people stay tuned in.
We've talked about that before, that there, at some point the weather stopped just being telling you about the weather, and then it's like everything has to be a threat.
Right, yeah. Come for the forecast, stay for the disaster.
Stay for the threat level. Never turn off the Weather Channel.
Yeah.
Or the weather will sneak up on you and mug you in a dark alley.
Yes. It took them a while to figure out how to fearmonger, but eventually they got there.
Yeah, I love that the headless beast could refer to the weather patterns, or it could refer to the media sensationalizing.
Yeah.
El Niño! El Niño! El Niño! I love it. I just love this song, Nick. I'm having a great time talking about this song with you.
Thank God. The medicine I slipped in your kibble was working.
I think my gabapentin's kicking in.
Oh, I'm tired, guys.
Feeling relaxed about this song. Cold thrust tongue extends its dark and watery touch.
Cold thrust tongue extends its dark and watery touch.
Eee.
If you look at the visual patterns caused by El Niño, one of the possible effects is this cold strip of water where it shouldn't be, or where it isn't usually.
And we get not quite rapey, but we get a lack of consent forced upon us feeling here.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how I take it, is a slight assault.
Yeah, it's unnerving. You know when you go swimming and you finally got up the courage to swim in the lake or the ocean?
Yeah.
And you're like, actually, this isn't too bad. This is really nice. I'm enjoying myself. The sun is shining. Something touched my leg. Something touched my leg.
You immediately jump up and run across the water like
Exactly.
a basilisk just to get out of there.
Yes. I feel like it's that. It's just also the scale of this. We think of a tongue as being finite, even the biggest tongue you can imagine, which is the Gene Simmons giraffe.
I would say whales have pretty big tongues, most likely.
Okay, that's a bigger tongue. That's true. But this is like, there is something insidious about this. There is something a little uncomfy about this.
Yeah. It's disconcerting.
Forces gather, marshal stand against the rush.
Forces gather, marshal stand against the rush.
One of the things I was reading about with El Niño is that now that the prediction models are better, they are able to give local authorities enough warning time to get flood materials ready, to say, oh, you know what, we're probably going to get some bad storms in this area.
Yeah. And marshal, meaning related to war in some way.
I always think to marshal is to organize the troops.
Right. Forces gather, marshal stand against the rush. So that could be everybody organized. So marshal is from Mars, the god of war. So it's Mars Martis. So it's the troops lined up. It's also, to me, because of that war distinction, it feels like what we have a lot in the States when we have these really big disasters is the National Guard shows up.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
There's also just going maybe peeling one layer deeper, the notion of man being at war with nature.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is something that Ian, I feel like, has spent most of his songwriting career playing against.
Yeah.
That, reminding us this sense that actually we are part of nature, that being in nature is our natural state.
Yeah.
And so for him to observe that there is that sense of we're at war with the world around us, that nature, the earth itself is our enemy.
Yeah, it's not
kind of brutal.
It's not his opinion.
No, of course not.
But it's that observation. And though in those few instances where he does really touch on where society, we as man, are butting heads with nature.
Yeah.
It's never a really good ending in the song, usually.
That's true. Yeah. Because nature's very big.
Nature's big and doesn't care if you haven't finished watching Strictly Come Dancing. It will smear you on the ground.
I was just thinking on the martial side of things, we here in hurricane country.
Woo, we're in hurricane country.
I'm stuck between the gators and the deep blue hurricane. So when we're getting ready for a big hurricane, when we had Ian recently.
When Ian Anderson came to visit.
When we had Milton recently.
Yeah.
One of the things that is really interesting to see is in the biggest parking lots that exist in this area, these lineman trucks will come from all the surrounding states. And you see lines, and I mean, it literally looks like a military operation.
That's crazy.
But it's electrician trucks.
Yeah. Yeah, so linemen meaning power lines.
Power lines, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Tennessee lineman, and I work my job.
I'm a county line man.
That's the one I was thinking of.
That's Decemberists.
Oh, that's not the one I was thinking of.
I'm a county lineman.
I was thinking like Kenny Rogers.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what you were singing.
I'll find it. This is important, Nick. This is worth our time.
Everybody stop everything and wait for Omen. I'm not even going to edit this out.
Oh, sorry. Wichita lineman.
Okay. Ooh.
Come on over here.
I am a lineman for the county.
Oh, yeah.
And I drive the main road.
But I'm always thinking about you, baby.
Searching in the sun for another.
Anyway.
Was that Kenny Rogers?
That was Kenny Rogers.
Wow.
Nope. It was Glen Campbell.
Ah, like a rhinestone cowboy.
Like a rhinestone cowboy.
That's Glen Campbell.
Like a rhinestone lineman.
Like a rhinestone codpiece.
Charlie, give me my bedazzled wrench.
Metric or imperial? It's the diamonds, damn it.
It's the one with the diamonds. Does this look like rose gold to you? Does this look like rose gold to you, Jimmy? Get it together. Oh my God. Wily child in mischief here to make his play.
Wily child in mischief here to make his play.
Well, a very nice clear line in reference to the child is El Niño.
The child. A child is born. What child is this? It's El Niño.
It's El Niño, here to make mischief. Leaves toys for little sister on another day.
Leaves toys for little sister on another day.
Another day. He says another day.
He's still
Whispers
here.
Another day.
Little sister being La Niña?
La Niña, yes. And there is always an El Niño, La Niña.
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle.
Yeah.
Nick McGill.
Omen. T-Sade.
To wrap it all up, if El Niño was written today, what would be different about it?
Oh, gosh.
25 years later.
Well, he would certainly have more fodder to play with in terms of disasters and effects on the environment and mankind. It would certainly warrant more reference and blame on mankind.
Yeah, certainly.
What about you? Anything come to mind?
Well, these days there's been, in the last 25 years since the song was written, there's been a lot of talk about, obviously, we are not doing a great job of meeting things like the Paris Climate Agreement. We're not doing a great job of staying under the bad levels of warming.
Yeah.
However, the thing that I find really interesting is that there has been a lot of work more on the local level with mitigating the effects of climate change. Like New York City, for instance,
sure.
is saying, okay, nothing we do is going to stop climate change, but we can mitigate the effects of climate change. And so they've been upgrading the subway system. There's a huge program of putting oysters back, repopulating the sound with oysters, because one of the amazing things that oyster colonies do, besides cleaning the water and being delicious, is they slow down big waves and storms that are coming into the bay.
Oh.
But there have been a lot of programs to do things like that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe El Niño written today would be a little bit more, well, we lost 17th Street, but up here on 18th Street, we're having a good time.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Like climate fatalism, or maybe kind of climate punk, like, well, we're all going to die anyway. Heavy water.
Okay, yeah. Accepting it and spitting in the eye of the storm anyway.
Party in Miami while Miami still exists.
Yeah. Whether it's politics or a storm, it won't be there for long.
That's right. Get it while it's hot.
And it's hot.
Brought to you by the Miami Tourism Board.
That's a great slogan.
Miami, get it while it's hot.
Sold.
Miami, your grandkids will never get to visit.
Lived the future legend that is Miami.
Miami today, Atlantis tomorrow.
Oh, that's really good.
Is that good?
That's a good one. I like that one a lot.
Someone call the city of Miami. Get Miami on the phone.
Get the Miami phone.
It's not the red one. It's the one that's flavored key lime.
The ringtone is Margaritaville.
I love Margaritaville.
Oh, I fucking hate it.
I mean, I love, what's his name?
Jimmy Buffett.
I think he's great. Wasting away again in Margaritaville. Bam, 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 bam. Nick, speaking of Jimmy Buffett, what is it that we will be talking about next week?
Oh, well, I've heard rumors about Jimmy Buffett, and this probably is true. Next week, we are talking about Black Mamba.
Black Mamba flush!
Yes. Do not flush a Black Mamba, whatever you do.
That's how we got into the situation in the first place.
That's right.
Nick, until next week, I will remain a wet merchant. My name is Omen Thomas Sade.
That's not the trade winds faltering. That's Nick McGill.
We are the tongue thrust known as the feckless momes.
And listen to us while we bathe you in uncertainty. This is Talk Tull to Me.
Welcome to Weatherscope. The biggest news this season, undoubtedly, the huge mass of warm Pacific water known as El Niño. Though it has caused torrential downpours in the Pacific region, El Niño has also dominated many tropical storms, preventing them from becoming hurricanes. In a dramatic development, the Weather Channel has captured the following satellite images of the mysterious phenomenon known as El Niño.
I am El Niño. All other tropical storms must bow before El Niño. Yo soy El Niño. For those of you who don't habla español, El Niño is Spanish for the Niño. And any of you hurricanes who are listening, step on up, because nobody can take El Niño. I challenge any of you punk-ass tropical storms to a no-holds-barred cage match. Anytime, any coast. I swear to God Almighty, it is time to pay the piper, because El Niño is coming for you, and it ain't gonna be pretty.
Obviously, El Niño issuing a challenge to all comers. Let's hear now from expert meteorologist and Intercontinental Wrestling Federation champion Ric Flair. El Niño had some pretty strong words there, Rick. It looks like he's after your belt.
El Niño, I got one thing to say to you, brother. You may dominate weather fronts all along the eastern seaboard, brother, but you wouldn't last 2 seconds against me and Junkyard Dog, Niño. I speak Spanish, but I'm coming to your burrito to kick your butt, old pal. Yeah, that's right.
Bow before the blower of El Niño. You want to be
a no submission fight to the finish. Ric Flair has applied the sleeper hold to El Niño.
No mas. No mas.
You heard it first. Unbelievable. Ric Flair has subdued the powerful weather phenomenon known as El Niño. I think you can look for a return to colder weather and more storms in the Great Lakes region.
November 3rd, watch WWF action when Hacksaw Jim Dugan takes on the Santa Ana Winds at the Indiana State Fairgrounds.